Ashton, Jeanty, and the Las Vegas Raiders head to Lucas Oil Stadium to face Jonathan Taylor and the Indianapolis Colts in this big Week 5 matchup. It's between two teams coming off of very tough losses. We need to start off with the Raiders because their quarterback, Gino Smith, had a mighty struggling performance against Chicago. They still had a spectacular opportunity to win that football game when it was all said and done. The kick gets blocked. Carlson's 54-yarder blocked by Josh Blackwell, and the Bears hold on to win that one. But the Raiders missed opportunities throughout this thing to seize control of the game. They are up by 2 points, fourth quarter, first and goal from the 7-yard line, and are not able to punch it in and take a 2-score lead. And Chicago capitalized, got to give them credits. The positive takeaway, though, Ashton Jeanty was exactly what you drafted this guy to be. 3 touchdowns on the day. He was pretty much unstoppable for Las Vegas. He was incredible running the football. They rushed the ball for 240 yards. Despite Geno's 3 interceptions, they were in a position to win. For the Indianapolis Colts, you could point to the holding call on the Jonathan Taylor explosive touchdown that gets called back that probably would have won the Colts the game. The giving up of the touchdown to Tutu Atwell, you've got a defender that falls down. The AD, I don't want to get into this too deeply because you don't want to beat a dead horse or kick a dog while they're down. But AD Mitchell, drops the football in attempts, showboating, whatever you want to call it. He loses the ball at the inch line, and it ends up being a touchback. One of the dumbest rules in the NFL is the touchback rule when a player is close to the red zone, and that adds to sort of a cascade of things that went wrong for Indianapolis to go win that game. Because let's be honest, the Colts outplayed the Rams for the majority of that football game. It came out sort of probing what Los Angeles was going to do defensively, trying to get Jonathan Taylor going into that game. Daniel Jones, was he the same guy that we had seen previously the last couple of weeks? No, he wasn't quite the same, and a lot of that has to do with the effectiveness of that really good Rams defense. This is an opportunity playing Las Vegas, whose secondary isn't quite as strong as what the Rams have. They certainly have a player of the caliber of Jared Verse, though, who was wreaking havoc all game long for LA. Maxx Crosby for the Raiders might have put himself into Defensive Player of the Year contention just from that one game alone against Chicago. The interception that winds up being a 10-point swing. He was impactful the entire day. I'm pretty sure the Bears benched one of their starters because of that. So if you're Indianapolis, who does feature a good offensive line, their priority number one, besides getting Jonathan Taylor going in this football game, is to stop Maxx Crosby, to limit his impact on this game, because he has shown that he can completely take one over, and he almost won that game by himself. The efforts of him and Ashton Jeanty in that one, but ultimately they're not able to overcome the 3 interceptions from Gino Smith overall. There was also a 4th down and 1 in this game that the Raiders tried to pick up. I know people are really going to talk about the run game and how good it looked, but there were times on big, short yardage scenarios, 4th and 1, on their own 35, they go for it, and that play is just blown up. Center gets blown up. Andrew Billings gets back there. They fumble. Again, Chicago doesn't do anything with it. That leads to the Maxx Crosby interception later on in the game. It's on the 34-yard line. It's a 3rd and 1.5 yards, and they can't pick up any yardage. The offensive line stalls out. There's an injury, I believe, the play before that. Chicago doesn't have to take a timeout, and the offensive line can't get pushed. They can't get a yard, because at that point, you can get more yardage, control the game. The Bears are out of timeouts. They're probably going to use on the next couple of plays. You can run it a couple of times, maybe get another chunk, make that field goal a lot easier, where you can have an elevated kick, whereas on a 54-yarder, you do still have to drive that thing a lot more, where it stays lower to the point where it can be blocked a lot easier than if you were closer, let's say at a 44, 42-yard range. You can immediately just try and elevate that ball and get it above the line quicker. So that's clearly something to look at in this one. Chicago figured something out. Their coordinator on special teams pointed out that the long snapper moves the ball before every snap, and he was talking with the Bears, their own long snapper Scott Daly, how that's something that he does. Does that get fixed for the Raiders? That's something to look at if you're the Indianapolis Colts this week. Does that get fixed? Let's talk about the downfield passing attack, because if you're a Colts fan, you really felt good about the matchups and how you would be going up against the Los Angeles Rams, which has a very young defense. They are good, but still young and not exactly fully blooded on that side of the ball. And Michael Pittman Jr., he was really impactful. He had a monster game, played at a high level. It's great to see him back and healthy. He's one of those guys that when he is healthy, he's one of the best in the game. A.D. Mitchell, clearly a large impact in that one. Can't be too hard on yourself. Tyler Warren continues to establish himself as one of the best tight ends already as a rookie. A ton of targets. Him versus Brock Bowers. Now, Brock Bowers, not much of a factor against Chicago. It's clear that his knee is not 100%, that he's battling through it. It reminds me back to 2023 when he was in the SEC championship game playing against Alabama. And it's obvious that Brock Bowers was not 100%. He's still out there basically on one leg giving it his all, because that's the type of culture player that he is. He's going to play for his football team, not missing the big games, but it's such a difference when Brock Bowers is 100 versus not fully healthy, because he truly has like mid 4.4 speed, where he can be a burner and be a true wide receiver that is a massive body and get down the field and be a good blocker. So when he doesn't have that burst, it's a much different player that you're able to utilize, and it's not quite as impactful. I got to tell you, I like Indianapolis in this game matchup-wise. They have a better offensive line than Chicago does. They certainly have a far better run game. Chicago ran the ball for 2.7 yards a carry, so the Raiders are coming into this matchup excited, whereas they just had, close to 300 yards run on them by the Washington Commanders, or running the ball all over them. Their offensive line played a lot better against Chicago. You didn't have the sacks that you had. Washington was just coming after Gino Smith the entire day, but still, Geno with a couple of really poor choices on the interceptions that he threw. It's tough. Indianapolis to not have Kenny Moore. It's clear that Los Angeles said, okay, no Kenny Moore. We're going to go to our number one target, Puka Nacua, 13 times, 170 yards in that touchdown. I do have Puka on one of my fantasy teams, a 36-point day, not too shabby. But for Indianapolis, they solely missed him in the back end. It's clear that he's a defensive back that's irreplaceable for them. His health is clearly important, but for Indianapolis on this side, I'm attacking that Raiders secondary. There were moments where Chicago, when they were in rhythm, didn't have the pre-snaps and they attacked, like the last possession of that game, their first possession of the second half, where they kind of went down the field with efficiency. Looked a lot like the Indy offense, where they can go under center, have the run pass balance, the offensive line playing on their toes and being aggressive once the run game is established a little bit more. So I think that Indy will be able to do that. Look, I believe that Jonathan Taylor is playing like a top 5 back. Wasn't a crazy impact in this game against the Rams, right? He didn't have 150 yards, but certainly was good enough for them to sustain drives. It was Daniel Jones with a couple of turnovers and a Rams defensive front that got enough pressure when they needed to. Just one of those games that you should have won that you didn't. The Las Vegas Raiders felt the exact same way last week. I like Geno Smith to have a bit of a bounce back, play better football. I don't see the type of impact Ashton Jeanty had last week in this one. Believe that the Colts have a line anchored by DeForest Buckner that's a bit stronger. Zaire Franklin's a monster in the middle. Latu. So they have the pieces on that Indy defense, where Chicago's missing some guys. I believe that Indy will be able to defend Jeanty better, and it might really come down to Gino Smith. Is he able to find completions? Will he get the ball to Deontay Thornton? That was the big incompletion that they had. It was, 3rd and goal, balls it at about the 8, and he throws it low to Thornton. If it's a better pass, he gets in. So Geno Smith, he knows he has to play better. He likely will play better. But who can establish themselves as the main target on that offense if Brock Bowers is not 100%? Who do you go to? That is the question that needs to be answered. A vertical threat weapon that they can rely on. Because right now, Indianapolis almost doesn't matter, whether it be Josh Downs or Pittman or Tyler Warren or A.D. Mitchell, if he's able to get back out there with more confidence. It's an array of weapons that they have. So I'm going to take the Colts in this game. Really confident that they've got an advantage on both sides of the football. Maxx Crosby looks to be the best player in this one, but Indianapolis has really good depth. Like them in a bounce back. Favored by about a touchdown, which is pretty hefty, but I like them to win 24-16. Let me know down below whether you agree with that prediction. Think that they'll be able to run the football, keep it balanced. Daniel Jones stay away from the big turnover. Let me know if you agree or you disagree. You think that the Raiders will be able to pull it off on the road. I appreciate you so much for watching. I make Blitz with Blender NFL content and college football content every single day. So please subscribe for more videos in the future. I appreciate you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Best player in college football.
That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blender. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Blender.
To the 40, 35, 30, Espinosa to the 20.